You ready? And 3, 2, 1, and go.
Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the BBPN Show. I'm Melissa C. Williams, and I'm here with my guest, theater director Darrell Willis Sr. Hi, Darrell. How are you?
Hi, Melissa. How you doing? Thank you for having me on BBPN.
And thank you for coming out. So let's get started. Let's jump into this. Tell us a little bit about. Let's tell us a little bit about yourself, about your education in theater.
Yes, theater. I've probably been in theater roughly about 40-something plus years. I started out probably when I was about 18, and I've been at it, ever since then. I just turned 65, so it's been a while.
Looking good for 65. You just turned 65? Well, happy birthday.
Yeah, May 13th.
Okay.
And I started out at Susquehanna University after graduating from Long Branch High School in 1970. I went on to Susquehanna University out in Selinsgrove, Pennsylvania, and
Is that a theater school?
No, it's a 4-year liberal arts school.
Okay.
And when I went out there in '70, I believe it was about 1,500 students, but it's grown now. It's about close to about 2,500 students now. And
So by you going there, what made you get into theater?
I had decided probably just before I went, because I was sent a form, and on the form it said you had to kind of declare your major.
Uh-huh.
And deep down inside, I knew that I kind of wanted a theater career.
Okay.
And I checked off theater career, unbeknownst to myself, not knowing that I would become the first, black theater major to graduate from Susquehanna University.
Wow,
Yeah.
very nice. Okay. And did you have acting underneath your belt? Had you done plays before that, or is it just something that you
No.
decided that you?
Yeah, actually, I believe it was my 11th, 12th grade homeroom teacher. She also happened to be my English teacher, and they were working on a production of The Crucible. And
Wow.
whoever the actor was that was playing John Proctor, the lead, somehow he dropped out, and
Okay.
we were reading it in class, and she basically canvassed and said that she was looking for somebody to play John Proctor, and that whoever played that particular role, that it would be extra credit, and that person, if they did a good job, they were almost assured of getting a very decent grade. And so I raised my hand.
Just for the grade, right?
Yeah, well, no, not necessarily.
Okay.
I loved the play. It was Arthur
Okay.
Miller, and I just knew it was Arthur Miller at the time.
Okay.
And I didn't realize how great a playwright he was, but I loved the play.
Okay.
And got a chance to do it. I had to learn lines and memorize the lines. And then we came in and we did it in class 2 or 3 times, and she really, really liked it. Matter of fact, she said she liked it so much. She said that we're going to tape.
That you got an A+.
No, yeah, well, she said you got an A, but she said we're going to tape it.
All right.
And when she taped it, I didn't think that much of it, but when she showed it,
It was a whole different
yeah,
ball game to see yourself.
Yes, it was.
Yeah.
It was a whole
On
different
film.
vibe, and the response that I got from the homeroom class, the English class, and she showed it to every other class. So, needless to say, about 6 or 7 classes saw it and got a real positive response. And up until that point in time, I was known as
So you didn't mind them critiquing you? You weren't like nervous? Cause
no.
you had 6 other classes filled with students that had something to say about your acting style.
Up until
I'd
that
have
point.
been nervous.
Well, up until that point in time, I was known as the starting fullback on the football team, and I ran track, so I was a sprinter.
Wow,
So
okay.
that was my main identity up until that point in time.
Okay,
But
okay.
this, I guess, showed
But who would have
people,
thought?
yeah, I could go in a different direction. So I surprised everybody else, and I surprised myself too.
So, besides going to school, after school, do you have to train or become an apprentice? And I ask this for anyone else who might be interested in becoming a director.
Yes, you do. Yeah, what you have to do, most directors usually some start off as actors. If you don't start off as an actor, because a lot of people just don't necessarily want to act,
Okay.
But they do want to direct. Then normally the rites of passage these days is to be what they call a production stage manager or stage manager, and you learn how plays put together and the rehearsal process and how you put the whole thing together.
Okay.
So normally that's the way it's done. It does help. It's a tremendous help if you.
So you would say it's a good living
Um,
in the beginning? Is it?
if you in the right, well, it depends. It does take a while.
It's a struggle, right?
Yeah, it is a struggle. It takes a while. There's so many people that want to do it.
Oh,
and
really?
That's what makes it. Yeah, there's a.
Wow.
I think the numbers came out within the last few years. I think there's like 100,000 actors in the city of New York.
So how do you go about getting your first directing job?
As far as the directing is concerned, directing is probably a little harder than acting because basically you pretty much have to make a name for yourself. You have to make a name for yourself, and usually you make that name for yourself as an actor, and then you slowly but surely get into the directing world, or as a stage manager. And that requires you to be a very, very organized person and a very, very, very good people person. And then you slowly but surely move into the world of directing. There's an old saying that it takes 20 years to become an actor. And I remember being in class and somebody asked, well, why does it take 20 years to become an actor? They said because after 20 years, you no longer have to think about it. In the same respect, to become a director, you have to know an awful lot, and you have to have lived some life. You have to have some, go through some hills and some valleys. You have to know something about pain, about every emotion. You have to know a lot of history because you could be asked. You could be asked to direct any type of play.
So that's a good question. I just want to backtrack to college just for a moment and say some of the classes that you should take if you're going to be a director would be what? Or if you're going to go into acting, either one.
Definitely. Usually most schools start you out with some form of introduction to theater class or a theater appreciation class. You usually have to take acting 1, acting 2, usually sometimes acting 3, acting 4, which will include Shakespeare. Shakespeare wrote 37 plays, so a lot of people are scared or don't want to do Shakespeare, but you cannot call yourself an actor, and you definitely cannot be a director.
I remember in high school, to say that my only introduction to theater or to literature, I would say, was we had to read Macbeth.
Ooh.
And we had to critique it. That was part of the class. If you wanted to pass this class, you had to tell us what you thought about the different scenes in Macbeth. And boy, was that hard.
Yes.
And you had to jump in.
Yes. Shakespeare, out of his 37 plays, he wrote histories, comedies, romances, and tragedies. And the 4 great tragedies are Macbeth, Othello, King Lear, and Hamlet. And so.
And did you hear that? Because you need to know those, right?
Those 4 you have to read: Hamlet, Macbeth, King Lear, and Othello.
That's what gets started.
Yes, so those are the 4 that you have to know. The 4 great tragedies, and you will come across those. You'll come across them in high school, and also you will come across them in college too.
Okay.
And you do have to develop a love of Shakespeare and understand the language because a great deal of your work can end up being in Shakespeare. Some people end up spending a lifetime just doing, all Shakespearean plays from a directing standpoint and or an acting standpoint. So you figure 37 plays, and there are at least 37 plays. There are probably at least 20 decent male roles in each play. So there are a lot of roles in Shakespeare for men and women, and it's just a really rich period in history to understand and appreciate also. So it's a lot.
As a director, do you have a lot of responsibility? Is all the responsibility yours? Like, do you have any help? How do you contact people?
Yes, normally what you have to do if you're hired somewhere, you're most of the time you're given a certain staff, and if you're doing a production on your own, the people that you have to seek out, probably your key person is what they call your production stage manager. That person he or she will be your right hand. They have to be extremely organized, somebody who knows how to show up on time, be extremely organized. They have to be a people person, and get to know everybody, and they have to know everything about that show. And then after your production stage manager, I would say it's your set designer, your lighting designer, your costume designer. Those people, you have to have. And then a lot of times your prop master, because if it's a period play, then that person has to go out and find things that are, germane, from that period. I just recently did a production of A Raisin in the Sun, which is set in 1956. So I'm trying to find all items from 1956, everything from a Coke bottle to a Valentine beer can.
That would be a good job for somebody to have to go and search for those things.
Absolutely.
For the stage and props.
Yes.
But I wanted to ask you also about when you mentioned A Raisin in the Sun. What is one of the best plays that you think you've done, that you think you've directed?
My personal favorite is probably A Soldier's Play by Charles Fuller. It won the Pulitzer Prize in 1982 for drama. Charles lives in Philadelphia, and it premiered at the Negro Ensemble Company in New York, featured a young Denzel Washington and a young Samuel L. Jackson. And I had the great pleasure back in the day when I was interning at the Crossroads Theater in New Brunswick of meeting Sam and Denzel when they were just starting out in that piece. And my father was a sergeant in World War II, and he was stationed over in Germany. So there's a lot of history there, a lot of family history there. So that piece is near and dear to me. Are
you doing A Soldier's Story?
Yeah, matter of fact, coming up in, trying to think, it'll be late February 2018. We'll be doing it at the Algonquin.
You're doing A Soldier's Story coming in February 2018, so that's coming.
Yeah,
you're working on this right now.
Yes, the play is called A Soldier's Play. The movie version is called A Soldier's Story. But
repeat that though. Repeat that so I can get it in my head.
The play is called A Soldier's Play. When they turned it into a full-length film, they renamed it A Soldier's Story. But it's the same, it's the same story.
Okay.
And, we won the Pulitzer Prize, meaning that it was probably the most celebrated play from a drama standpoint that was written in that particular year.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's a wonderful piece. I love it. And in addition to it being a period piece, for me, coming from a military family, the great thing is that I love the music behind the play, which is all big band music, Count Basie and all the big bands.
So you do this? Do you do the Soldier's Play every year?
It's a piece that normally you get a chance to do it maybe once every 10 years or so. Somebody will want to do a production of it, and but it's not something that you would do every year. But most of those plays that are classics like that, usually if you can put a 10-year period in between them, they usually speak, and there's usually a new generation that's come up that needs to be introduced to that piece. Okay,
so why don't we do this? Why don't we roll a clip of A Soldier's Play? And here we go. That was real fake and corny.